In this video, we're going to take one major and minor chord like this. This is another G major shape. And that's E minor. And turn it into this. Hi, I'm Joe, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch these videos. I do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe down below and hit the bell notification, and you'll be notified when the next video comes out in the series. The concept behind these videos is very simple. In each one, I'll introduce you to two chord shapes, and then we'll learn how to practice switching in between them. These are very common chord combinations that you'll find in most songs. I've organized this video into 4 sections. In the first section, I'm going to show you the G major and E minor chord shapes. Then I'm going to play you a track that I put together so you can practice at home switching between these two chords. And in the third part, I'll show you each individual guitar part that I played so you can see exactly what I'm doing on the guitar. And in the fourth part, I'll give you some practice tips. Let's go ahead and get started on this one. Before we get to the musical example in the practice track, let me show you the two chord shapes that we're going to be doing today. We're going to be doing G major and E minor. For G major, we're going to take our second finger and put it on the 3rd fret of the low E string, our first finger on the 2nd fret of the A string. Then we're going to have a series of open strings starting with the D string, G string, and B string, and then our 3rd finger on the 3rd fret of the high E string. This sounds like this. Another alternative is to take your 3rd finger, move it up one set of strings, so closer to you, and put your pinky where it was on the 3rd fret of the high E string. This is another G major shape. Another alternative is to take your first finger and lift it up to remove the 3rd in the chord, and slightly bend your 2nd finger so it dampens the A string so you can't hear it, and strum that. Let me show you the E minor chord. The E minor chord, we're going to start with the open E, our 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the A string, our 3rd finger right behind that on the 2nd fret of the D string, and then a series of open strings. And we can strum from the 6th string all the way down. And that's E minor. Let's go ahead now and listen to the practice track. This song is a lot of fun to play. It has a little bit of a country feel to it. A little swing is happening to all the guitar parts. There's 3 parts going on, and the first part is just playing the G to the E minor. But we're going to do something different. In the previous lessons, you were learning just to basically strum a chord. What we're going to do is add a bass note to this. So for the G, we'll hit the G note first at the top, and then we'll strum. And when we get to the E minor, we'll do the same thing. We'll hit the open E, and then strum. I'm sure you've heard this before in like the old country type songs. So you're basically just pivoting off of a bass note first before you hit the strumming pattern. The G, G again, to the E minor. E note, G, strum, G, strum, open E, strum. And that's all there is for the first part. For the second part of the song, I'm utilizing that E major shape. But if we imagine that this was our first finger as our bar here, and we slide this up to the 3rd fret, we also have a G chord. Same chord. Just play with different fingering. And what we're doing here, this is called a bar chord. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the top half. And I'm going to start with the B note, which is our 2nd finger on the 4th fret of the G string. Then our first finger is going to bar on the 3rd fret of the B string. and the 3rd fret of the high E string. So we're playing the notes B, D, and G. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hammer on, which basically means I'm going to pick the first note, and I'm going to hammer on the 5th fret of the G string to pick up a C. You're only picking the first note and hammering on the next note. And then I'm strumming up the rest of the chord. So it goes like this. A strum first, hammer on, and then I'm going to play the E minor here. So if you remember from a previous lesson where we showed you had the D minor chord shape, if you slide this up because the root is underneath your 3rd finger, up to the 5th fret of the B string, this now makes an E minor chord. Same sound. And that's all we're doing for this part. So we're playing the G, hammer on, and then the E minor. Up tempo. The 3rd part of the song is a lot of fun to play, and it utilizes the open strings of each chord. What's great about using open string parts in your songs is it adds a certain fullness to it. It just sounds different than a fretted note. There's something special about having open strings. Let's look at the G chord. We have a lot of those middle strings open, and for this part we're going to play off of the G and the D note. And when we get to the E minor, we'll play the same G note, but now an E at the bottom. So this part starts on the D, to the G, to the D again, to the G, to the E, to the G, to the E, and the G. Slowly. A little more up tempo. So basically those 2 notes are outlining each chord change in the song. So for this song there's actually a lot to practice. The first thing you want to do is get the G major and the E minor chord shapes underneath your fingers, and then practice switching between the 2 chords. Always make sure you're practicing to a steady beat and keeping things smooth. Remember, you can download these tracks from my website for free and practice along with them. I made these for you as a practice tool. The next thing you want to look at is adding a bass note. So play the G, and then strum, play the E, and then strum. And try that with other chords too. You know a lot of chords now if you've been watching these videos. Try it with the C chord, try it with the D chord. Just again, play a bass note and then a strumming pattern. The next thing to practice maybe might be those hammer-ons, and build up your finger strength to be able to do those. Hammer-ons just add a little bit extra spice to anything that you're playing. And finally, the last thing, when you're playing chords, see if you find any open strings. Using those open strings really just adds an extra dimension to your songs, as I mentioned earlier. There's something magical about having open strings. Think of guitar parts that you can use that use the open strings. That's another video down for this series. I hope you enjoyed what you saw. If you found any value in it whatsoever, please consider supporting the channel for free by subscribing down below. Hit the like icon and knock on the bell and you'll be notified when the next one comes out. Until next time, I wish you a wonderful day. The series concept is very simple. I introduce you to 2 chord shapes, and then I show you how to practice.
I filmed this on the concept is very simple. Check it out.
I wish you would stop talking during my video.